Inakangedi. And welcome back to Jeff Koinange live at the Intercontinental Hotel. What a show we have tonight. I tell you, every time Njiru, the Uungwana man, shows up, he calls it like he sees it, and he does it every time. In fact, Jare Odoja says, make use of that fire extinguisher. The show is hot and smoking, Jare. All right. Incredible designer, you say? Kenyans love shortcuts in everything. Jobs, success, leadership. Ushenzi tupu. Zeuri says, the problem is you and me. We should change our mentality. And one more. Let's read Paul Kedemi says, always locked. Keep us educated, Ken. So, question is, everybody is streaming into Kenya. Kenya seems to be the flavor of the month. And I'm not just talking about Clinton, Kerry, and Obama on the way. Just about everyone is basing their companies in their sub-Saharan headquarters in Kenya, Ken, not South Africa anymore.
You know, sadly, by the way, if you listen to the politicians generally, and again, I will agree with the president, that you get depressed because every time they open their mouth, they just throw depressing things. But the reality is, there's so much going for this country in terms of a skilled labor base, and the average Kenyan, by the way, you know, who's well educated, drop them anywhere. Drop them in New York, drop them in London, they thrive. They actually do very well. And so we have a critical mass of people who can take us to the next level. We have a critical mass of people who, when the GEs come here and they say, let's hire, you find people to hire. And that's why you'll find so many Kenyans even, you know, doing professional things in South Africa, in Botswana, all these countries.
Yeah.
I mean, you go to Uganda, there are so many Kenyans, you know, working in the multinationals. So the people of this country, and anyway, a nation is a country. I think we are go-getters, and for me, the apex of that go-getting, you know, getterism is the Kenyan athlete. Look at what they continue doing over and over and over again,
week after week,
and for me, that's what I call, by the way, a culture of success. And I am convinced beyond a reasonable shadow of doubt, and this is the challenge I keep throwing to our Kenyan leaders, that we need to mirror that type of success we see in these young people in Kenya generally. And by the way, these are young people who are not, hawasemi naomba serikali nipeleke nikakimbie Boston. Naomba serikali nipatie nguvu ya kukimbia. The guys just do it.
And take themselves there.
They take themselves there.
And believe they can win Boston.
And they can't even speak English better than you, Jeff.
No.
All right? And they believe in themselves. And they believe they can beat the world, and they keep on doing it over and over and over again. I would want to see the businessman doing exactly that. Competing with the giants and beating them over and over again. I would like to see the schools becoming, you know, top-rate schools. For me, there's no reason why public schools should be down here and private schools up here. We should be able to lift everything. They should be, in fact, for me, you know, sometimes when you look at, for instance, countries like Britain, you find that when you talk about their public schooling system, it's a good schooling system. But maybe we need to force our leaders, and I think these are the conversations I think we should be having. I don't understand. In fact, we need an audit of how many of our senators, our MPs, and people who we elect take their children to public schools.
Oh, that's an easy one. 0.
Which means they don't even believe in what they tell us.
There you go.
Right? How many of them go to public hospitals? I can tell you almost none.
Correct.
And they call ourselves our servants. But they place themselves up here and everybody else down here. And I'm saying that they need to work this country to a level where things come to par, so that they too can use these facilities. And that for me is what true leadership is all about. Why will Google come here? The people. I mean, you know, Google and the big companies, the people of this country. The people of this country work. I mean, you most probably have traveled to a number of African countries. People move very slowly. In fact, when you push them, they don't want to move.
No.
But the average Kenyan is trying to do one thing or another. Even stealing, we steal very well. Chance.
And that's why,
with a passion.
Yes, we do it 100%.
100%.
No matter what it is.
When people are corrupt, they are corrupt big time. Billions.
Speaking of corrupt, Ken, the list of shame. You think, oh, look, we're nearly 60 days. We're not far from that 60-day deadline. You think people are going to go down?
I hope somebody goes down.
Yeah.
Not maliciously, but
right.
But I think if that doesn't happen, the Kenyan public is going to lose faith in these processes. What I find interesting is that all of them, to the last person, have denied. I'm not corrupt. I wasn't there. So sometimes I wonder then,
Who was there?
is there corruption in
Who
Kenya?
stole?
I mean, in Kenya, everybody denies, right? But having said that, of course, you don't want people to. I mean, we're not saying, take, incarcerate people.
We're not witch hunting.
We're not witch hunting.
No.
But if somebody has touched our shilling, I think they need to pay for it. But again, these are my own musings. I ask myself, will fixing 174 people really resolve the corruption question? And I'm not saying, by the way, that I think that was a fantastic start. And as I'm asking that question, I reflect on the fact that I think the corruption seed is so deeply ingrained in us at all levels, whether we are talking about hospitals. I mean, we know of public hospitals where before you're treated, somebody wants kitu kidogo,
yeah,
or you stay in line the whole day,
or if you want the drugs,
or you want the drugs. Whether we are talking about schools, the local policeman, and by the way, it's a two-way process. The people in the office, and even we Kenyans, by the way, we routinely carry money to bribe the policeman, and so we need to work on the deep socio-cultural psyche. Many times, what we focus on is, when you talk about an iceberg. When you see an iceberg in the sea, what you see is the tip up here. And I think the 174 are the tip, and we must deal with it. But the bigger score is you and me, doing small, shenzi things here and there, accepting corruption and feeding it, instead of standing up and fighting it. Can we stand up and fight it? Of course we can. Look at the pre-2002 scenario, where people were actually arresting policemen and taking them to police station.
Yeah.
We must go back their way and say, no. I mean, that's the only way we can win.
That didn't last very long, did it, Ken?
It did.
Speaking of hospitals, Ken, apparently the cancer unit at Kenyatta National Hospital, cancer patients have been told, wait till late 2016 until you start coming for therapy. How do you do that when you have?
Our leaders go to Nairobi Hospital.
Or India?
Yeah, or India.
Or South Africa?
That explains it.
The rest of you Mujisot?
If they used to go to Kenyatta National Hospital, and by the way, we grew up, I remember when I was young, we used to go to Kenyatta. All the consultants were up there, Kina Mungola, I still remember.
Yeah, top names.
The top brains were there. But today, because all our leaders have shifted to Aga Khan, to Nairobi, to wherever, you can die, and you still elect them.
And you still elect them.
Yeah.
You get what you deserve.
Yeah.
What happens to this new generation? There's so many young people watching you now, Ken, they've watched and they said, you know what, a lot of what you're saying is so right, and the tweets are reflecting that. But where do we go from here, Ken? How do we?
You see, for me, to the new generation, I say, their ability to achieve is not pegged on what the old has done. It's as simple as that. Everybody is within his or her star. Everybody has a gifting. What each and every one of them, and it doesn't matter what their circumstances are, must decide is to be the best that they can be. And if they become the best that they can be, then maybe at 35, like Lee Kuan Yew, they can become the president of this country. If they commit themselves to, manifesting the greatness of God, as opposed to playing the monkey see, monkey do, if they can commit themselves to having that hope. And many times I reflect on the fact that when Churchill was asked after World War II what the greatest weapon they had against Hitler, he said 3 times, hope, hope, hope. If they embrace that hope, so that they are not constantly complaining and saying, thinking the world owes them. If each and every one of them can put a finger on their essential greatness like the young athletes do, this country will rise. And I'm telling them to take heart. I mean, I'm clear, by the way, that the ability to succeed is not subject to any laws that man has put, to any systems that a man has put. It might be harder to break through, but we can break through. This generation has it easier than the pre-independence generation. They had to fight the colonialist. Some of them had to go into the Bundus to fight the Mau Mau, the Mikatilis, the Maji rebellions across Africa. These guys simply just have to decide, it is in my stride to be great in whatever I do.
Is the window now, Ken? Is the window gonna close? This one that you see, the opportunities we see now, is that gonna close?
It never really closes, as long as you're alive. The question is, I always say, is whether you are committed to being who God wanted you to be. The window never closes. And it doesn't matter what age it is. I mean, even in the Mandela age when they were fighting apartheid, it never closed. He opened it. It may have taken him 27 years, but that's what he was called to do. Yeah, I like also, for instance, citing people like Wangari Maathai. Wangari Maathai, by profession, was a chemistry professor.
Correct.
But she found her calling in conservation, in planting trees, and she planted another and another and another and another. We recognize that. She set up the Green Belt movement. Finally, she was a Nobel laureate winner,
yes,
and given 110 million shillings. Some of us will die without ever seeing 1 million shillings.
Right.
Not because it is in your DNA, but because of the way you think. Unaomba serikali saa yote instead of doing what you must. You just get up and do it. Get up and do it despite the circumstances. That's how we are made. And by the way, I'm sure you look like you go to the gym sometimes.
Yeah, I do.
You know, they say, no pain,
no gain.
No gain.
Absolutely.
All right?
No
Which
pain,
means
no
that,
gain.
that nature, by the very law of nature, you have to push against circumstances.
And you have to
when
feel
you
the pain.
fall, you must get up and wipe yourself. You will feel the pain.
You will feel the
You
pain.
will fall. Lincoln, lost elections 14 times.
Correct.
But the possibilities in that losing, that election, that he was hardened to become the leader who you finally united the North and the South. All right? So everybody's within their star. Quit apologizing. Quit complaining. Quit saying, if I was like Jeff. Create your bench.
Correct.
And just do it.
And do better.
And do better. I mean, I told you, the time you were starting this bench, guys
Yes.
were wondering.
They were laughing.
Has this guy gone crazy?
They were laughing.
Yeah. Now everybody wants to sit on your bench.
Everybody.
In fact, people call me and say, Jeff looks like your friend. Can you get me on that bench? So next time I call you to put somebody on the bench, just know I'm under pressure because of the good work that you've done.
Right.
That's what we must do. Let us manifest the greatness of God. And that's what I'm telling young people. And it doesn't matter where you come from. It doesn't matter whether your father was A or B. What matters is who you are and whether you can reach within yourself to become the best that you can be.
And whether you have what it takes to go all the way, no matter what.
No, you have it. But whether you'll master it. It is in you. You're a seed of greatness. It's just, you know the way a flower unfolds? That is how we are made. And many times I keep on saying, Jeff, one day you are this small and you grew bigger.
Yeah.
That's magic. I mean, if you compress this and it is magic. And so that seed that grew you physically, that seed of your spiritual gifting is inside there. But many times we grow big just because we're eating ugali and skuma wiki, but we don't grow the spirit. We don't grow the mind. We start behaving like monkeys. You see people jumping, you start jumping.
Yeah.
And then when you're jumping, you're asking why are they jumping.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So it's about you understanding that you must ask why the hell are you jumping?
Yeah.
I mean, think about even the whole concept of somebody coming to bribe you in an election. It's an insult. Giving you 100 shillings, like throwing a piece of meat to a dog. A dog will never ask you, why are you throwing meat at me?
You'll eat the meat.
But you then eat the meat like a dog. It's actually an insult for somebody to come and bribe you during an election. But when we don't have a sense of consciousness, in fact, you start saying mukono mtupu, haulawi. You start justifying it because you're a mushenzi. In fact, for me, I think that is treason.
Right there.
Because then you elect washenzis who go to parliament to do the type of ushenzi that we are basically seeing and become MCAs who are running all over the world and earning money which they shouldn't be earning.
Right. Impeaching their governors.
Until
they get bribed.
Because they are not being bribed, because
Right.
they are not being given money.
Right.
Ushenzi.
Total.
Ukamili.
One Uungwana-ness. Let's go on a high note, Ken. The one Uungwana-ness that this nation still has, what is it?
The spirit of the people. I think Kenyans have something in them. And that's why Kenyans will always be Kenyans. I mean, the average Kenyan, you've traveled a lot, by the way, we are confident when we are out there. I mean, even despite the ushenzi that we see here and there, something happens. Every day I wake up, Jeff, and there's traffic on the roads. These are Kenyans pushing to go and work.
Every day.
Every day.
Rain or shine.
Rain or shine. We are complaining, but we are going to work. We work, and 5 o'clock, we then get up again and go and we go home. Think about the average hawker who has to sell his things looking at for Kaju.
Correct.
Those things are grabbed by Kaju. Tomorrow he's there again. We have a spirit that is indomitable. We have a spirit that is great. My prayer is that we will find leaders who are able to capture and fire that spirit to greatness. And talking of which, I also fundamentally believe that this country has a role to keep prompting Africans. to keep moving ahead. If you think about the way we got independence in this country, so many people, in fact, we inspired South Africans. When Mandela came to Kenya, he wanted to see Kimathi's wife.
That's the first thing he asked for.
Of course, we didn't think much of Kimathi's wife.
We didn't even know where she was.
We didn't even know where she was. Her house was, her kids, Kimathi's kids didn't even go to school.
No.
Because of lack of consciousness.
But Mandela asked for her.
But Mandela asked for her. That's a man now who's elevated. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. If we were elevated, then we would have known where this lady was. Moi then was very embarrassed, saying, Ako wapi? Kwenda leta hii. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And so, in so many ways, there are so many fasts for Kenya. Apart from even in business, the Safaricoms. And by the way, the Safaricom stories are fast even across the world. I'm sure you've traveled and Wazungu's asking you, how do you do that?
Absolutely.
And you show them.
How do you send money on your phone?
Money? How do you send it?
You can't believe it.
They can't believe that you can do it.
And there's studies in Harvard and Cambridge and Oxford and all that.
On this M-Pesa, business. You look at the whole question of the new constitution, the way we removed the old one and enacted it. Show me another country that has done that in peacetime.
There's hope.
I mean, there's so many fasts. There is hope. The average, I'm sure even, what's his name? The Ugandan who comes here.
Oh, yeah, the Loudmouth.
The Loudmouth.
Yeah, him.
That guy.
Matsanga.
I'm sure when he's in Nairobi, he thinks he's in Europe.
Oh, he does?
Yeah.
Oh, why do you think he's always here?
There's so much happening.
Yes.
And slowly you see even Nairobi lifting.
Yeah.
But for me, I say, I draw a line between complaining, which the president was talking about, and understanding and appreciating that sometimes you can have a student who's A material, but they're bringing in D grades. Kenya is A material. We are bringing in D grades, and we must bring in A grades. That's what we must focus on. And we must not be apologetic about it. And we must go to a level where, every time I watch Discovery Science, I keep asking, are we on this planet? When you see what the Muzungus are doing. When you see them, with their big jets. Then we have our two small mosquitoes that keep flying all over during Madaraka Day.
And they have huge jets.
They have huge jets that do 10 minutes from here, lift off, 10 to Mombasa.
Yeah.
We must make that 10. In fact, we must make one that does 5 minutes to Mombasa, and we can do it.
We can.
One day, I mean, some of these things so consumed me that one day, there's a friend of mine who was he's a flight engineer some years back with Kenya Airways, and he told me that they do maintenance of the Airbus every once a year, strip it open. Asked him, could I come and see it? He says, yes. So when it was all stripped open, he invited me. And I went and looked at that thing. I mean, the engine, naked, so to speak. They had, stripped the seats out, the wiring and everything that goes in that aircraft. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And I asked him, by the way, he was really, taking me through what this thing can do. The engine of an Airbus can light thicker town, when it's at full throttle.
Yeah.
I asked him, can't we make this thing? I mean, I couldn't see any Muzungu repairing that Airbus. They were all Africans. He says we can. But we've imprisoned ourselves in something we call comparative advantage. So our comparative advantage is to continue growing funny things we call Arabica coffee. And there's nothing wrong with growing Arabica coffee, but that becomes our comparative advantage. So that successfully over the years, in 1960, maybe we needed 1 million bags to buy this aircraft. Now we need 20 million bags to buy this aircraft. And the price is even going down, and the price of the aircraft is going up. I mean, don't we have people who can think? But then again, how much money are we putting into research? I mean, Jeff, you've traveled. Maybe you've even gone to those Boeing,
Seattle.
In Seattle. Oh. I mean, it's amazing. When you look at robots making cars, hands coming and doing.
Yes.
And we are running around political rallies, people in slippers, shouting, screaming, beating women, and just packing up parliament with people who are doing not much. And we want some more in the name of gender equality.
And then we ask, what went wrong?
And then we ask him, what went wrong?
Monkey see?
Monkey do.
Njiru, I could talk to you all day, all night, my brother. Thank you so much. Keep coming back.
No, I'll keep coming back.
Keep coming back.
And I want Kenyans to know that.
No apology.
Nobody's junk. Doesn't matter what your situation is. You may be, monetarily, you may not have money in the pocket, but spiritually, you must rise. And I keep saying, even that beggar on the street, in the hands of an inspired, God-driven leader, that beggar will go to the moon.
He can make
That's what we need in this country.
And we all have the same brain.
And we all have the same brain. Open up
same gray matter.
Open up the Chinese brain. The guys who are fixing our roads here.
Yes, SGR.
Same gray matter.
Same.
But the difference between the Chinese brain and the Japanese brain and the German brain is the way we use our brain and our hearts.
Correct. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that. Uungwana. As opposed to Ushenzi.
Or being here. Neither hot,
nor cold.
nor cool. That's Ushenzi.
Wow. What a guest. Njiru calling it like he sees it without fear or favor. At the end of the day, it boils down to you and me. That's the bottom line. If we want to uplift this nation, raise it to where it's supposed to be, it's not about haki yetu or serikali itusaidie. It's about what are you doing. Like Ken said, quoting another famous man, John F. Kennedy, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. It's simple as that. Can you do it? Are you up to the challenge? Think about it. Keep tweeting at Uungwana Kenya, at Koinange Jeff. The hashtag is JKL. And like I mentioned, tomorrow night on the bench with the piano beside us, two guys, Don Moen and Lenny LeBlanc. We're going to be singing all those gospel tunes, praise songs. We're going to be inspiring an entire nation. We could do with a bit of inspiration. Njiru has started it off tonight. Tomorrow we end it with that amazingly fantastic, famous duo. Make sure you tune in, because you can only get these kinds of guests right here on Kenya's television network, KTN. Thanks so much for joining us. Good night. Good luck. And God bless.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, sir.
Keep going.
Thank you, sir.
Keep doing it.